Welcome to No Master, No Slave. A show that seeks to reveal the hidden aspects of our world. History, philosophy, science, spirituality, and the truth of that which is. No master, no slave.
Welcome to No Master, No Slave. I'm Zach, and I'm joined with Mike and Nick. We have a very special guest today, Jay Parker. He's a Satanic Ritual Abuse healer and counselor. Jay spends most of his energy teaching the positive aspects of consciousness with a focus on healing modalities. He is a host of 2 radio shows, The Center Path and Matrix Warriors, and he is one of the founding members of the Free Your Mind Conference. Jay, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's good to be here on No Master, No Slave. I think it's great what the 3 of you are doing with this podcast to really bring the, shall I say, the true activists and movers and shakers of this consciousness paradigm shift that we're going through right now on the planet. As anyone that actually does some reading and research knows that millions of people throughout the planet are now starting to wake up to the satanic mind control and coming into their own power by research, study, and meditation. And I just think it's great that you guys are out promoting, things like Larkin Rose, Mark Passio, the Free Your Mind Conference. And I just want to tip my hat to you because what you're doing is what is going to change this paradigm. Sitting on your ass, saying, oh, woe is me, is not going to save the planet or humanity. We're in deep doo-doo. We all know this, that the ecology is crashing. Fukushima and the chemtrails, aka geoengineering, are destroying the ecology of the planet. And we only have a few years left. If we allow things to continue like this. They're not doing anything with Fukushima, and they're not doing anything to stop the spraying, which is, well over 200 million pounds a year is being sprayed. So we're in trouble. So my radio shows, I have 2 radio shows, and basically the Center Path work is mostly consciousness and physiology and talking about psychology and things that have been occulted from people's understanding of themselves in a mental and emotional way. We haven't seen this information that's being spread on the web about the physiology and emotional chemical makeup of the human being has not been taught in the world, possibly for, absolutely since the time of quote-unquote Christ at the BC AD line. So it's been over 2,000 years since we've seen this information. And the people who are propounding the Gnostic Telestai information that was sequestered and occulted by the Catholic Church and the oligarchs of the old religion known as Luciferianism or Satanism in general. They destroyed at the AD BC line, and it took 1,000 years through the Dark Ages to really rid the world of people who understood the simple bottom line fact with the human race. And if you know this, you can control the human race. And that's the fact that the human race is a programmable species. In the first 6 years of life, you can be programmed. And that's what's going out over the web right now, and people are realizing that they can reprogram. We've lived in a society in the West, in particular, where we've always been told that we're the good guys and we're the shining light on the hill. But in reality, I think in America, everyone that has half a brain cell rubbing together knows that since our incursion into Vietnam 40 years ago, America is nothing but a empire for the royals in Europe. So, I do a lot of work on satanic ritual abuse. I grew up in an Illuminati family. It took me, I would guess, a good 10 years to rebuild my consciousness once I woke up from my satanic ritual abuse slave programming. Probably in 2002, I really became aware. 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. But it was such a shock to my system, those 3 years from 2001 to 2003 really are kind of foggy in my mind because I was fighting so much suicide programming from the monarch programming. Because once a programmed satanic ritual abuse survivor or minion wakes up from their I would say it's like hypnotism, but it's a little deeper than that. Once you wake up, you have in you like a 3-month tape recorder that says kill yourself. So I had to fight that. And instead of getting angry, taking the rage of realizing that my life was a lie. And I spent 40 years under mind control from the time I was, roughly 7 years old to the time I was like 43, something like that. It was quite a shock. And when I woke up from the mind control, I was accidentally triggered by a witch. And she was, I guess, trying to get into my programming so she could make me her personal slave. And she used my mother's primary, I would say, programming phrase or word. And so she opened up the file for my programming, but she didn't know what to do after that. And so in the space of a weekend, 7 years of satanic ritual abuse and programming that I had been tortured and mind-controlled and brainwashed into not realizing that was my life, flooded into my mind. And so I took all that anger and this monarch suicide programming from waking up, which is very emotionally stressful. And I decided, instead of lashing out at the people I know who did this to me, like my father and mother, and some of the people in my family, I decided to study as much as I could and become an activist for truth and healing, and try to make sure this never happened to anybody else. And I've been working at that, and it took me 10 years to get to the point, where I actually in 2011 went to the Free Your Mind conference and spoke in public. And becoming a friend with Mark Passio, the founder of the Free Your Mind conference, was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. Definitely part of synchro mysticism. I ran into him, and he taught me so much about consciousness. And then, of course, having the internet, there is no reason to be ignorant in the world today. It's a choice. And most people who are still ignorant are not obeying the energy pattern that is now flooding the holodeck here on planet Earth. So ask me a question, because I could go rambling on forever, guys.
Sure. Do you want to talk about some of the methods used to reprogram and heal yourself?
Yeah, I really, believe it or not, the Illuminati really wanted me to be one of their Rand Corporation guys, or else a politician for them, because I had a genius IQ, or at least I did. But so they were training me to be one of their, people, because my mother worked as a mind control programmer for the DuPont family. She taught at the DuPont's exclusive school, the Pilot School in Wilmington, Delaware, where, of course, the DuPonts control the state of Delaware. And all the corporations in America are incorporated in Delaware. So if you think Delaware is something other than an Illuminati fiefdom, you're smoking crack. Okay? So long story short, so there I am in 2002, bouncing off the walls, fighting suicide programming, being outrageously angry at my family, because for 45 years of my life, roughly, I'm walking around thinking I came from a Norman Rockwell family, where my father and mother just happened to get divorced. But other than that, it was all Norman Rockwell. And then, coming out, out of nowhere, having the files dropped into my conscious mind from my subconscious in one weekend, realizing that I had been raped, abused, tortured, and mind controlled for the first 7 years of my life. And so you ask yourself, what the hell is this all about? I mean, who in their right mind would even have sex with a baby in a cradle? I mean, you have to be as sick gets to stick your penis in the mouth of an infant in a cradle. Yet my parents engaged in that behavior with me and my brothers quite often. And I know it, I have memories of it. So
yeah, and I remember, I just want to say, I remember listening to that show with Mark, the first show you did with him. Yeah, what you went through is, very, very intense, very traumatic, and just horrible. I mean, yeah.
And I'm telling people this stuff because there's over 34 million dark occult in America, and they're doing this to their children. They're breeding the next generation of fascists and Marxist power-tripping controllers to keep free humanity down. So this is a generational mind control system. So
yeah, absolutely.
What I want to talk about, of course, because you are asking me how do you heal from stuff like this? Well, my basic talks on the Center Path radio show I do, and the Center Path is now on Sunday nights on Veterans Truth Network at 9 Eastern Time at night. And I'm going to start that this week and on Veterans Truth. I'm not working with Swami Shivananda Giri anymore on the show. His work with people in the Eastern consciousness, he's got a lot of students and stuff, and he's decided not to ride shotgun on the show anymore. But I'll probably have him in, as a guest occasionally. Or have him, give little talks on tape, and I'll air it for him if he likes. But the problem with the human race is this, is that we are programmable. And this information that the human race is a programmable species has been occulted since the time that, Christianity destroyed the ancient mystery religions from 100 to 400 AD. And Rome went on a campaign, after it became a Christian empire at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Went on a campaign with the Christian church to literally obliterate and destroy all vestiges of the ancient knowledge of the mystery schools and lead the world into a total dark age. And that information has been occulted, but, because of recent discoveries of the Nag Hammadi documents of the Dead Sea Scrolls, especially in a Eastern religion context, Middle Eastern religious context, we're realizing that what happened at the Council of Nicaea was actually the Illuminati taking over religion in Europe and the Mediterranean, and turning it into a political, mind control system. Because there's really hardly any spirituality in it. It's all emotional feedback and nonsense. Real spirituality is when you learn ethics and natural law and many other things, and you start actually doing those things. Then the universe kind of in your heart and mind gives you enlightenment. And it's actually from obeying the spirit of the universe, which is a consciousness where you're on the center path. You're neither a victim nor are you an abuser. You walk the center path. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to teach people about this whole programming of the human race. And what it comes down to is in the first 6 years of your life, you have delta and theta brainwave pattern. You can't differentiate anything coming into your five senses. And up until the age of 6, in this delta and theta brainwave pattern, you are basically unconscious. And you are downloading everything as if it was the Word of God from your parents, your society, everything you contact. Sit a baby in front of a television, that's just being poured right into their subconscious. So you really have to wonder about why people are so messed up and why they're so programmed. Well, many of these children have spent most of their early childhood parked in front of a television that's pouring subliminals into them straight from the Illuminati. So they, what used to be a human being is now really, due to the culture, a lot more solipsist than it ever was, and a lot more programmed. And we're in a lot of trouble that way. But fortunately, human beings do have a heart, and the heart can be triggered to, change its mind.
Yeah, I know you're also a big fan of EFT. I use that myself, and I'm still looking into it and learning from it. But would you like to touch upon that and explain that to people? How that can help you reprogram yourself and release some of that trauma?
Oh, without EFT, I'd still be as David Icke says, I'd still be a man under the moon matrix system. When you go through satanic ritual abuse, every week you're with the cult, every week you're with your primary handler, which is either your mother or your father. Usually, if you're a boy, it's the father who handles. If the girl, the mother would be the primary mind control handler. And every week you go to the quote-unquote Church of Satan, at least once, sometimes twice a week. And you're raped and tortured. And they use cattle prods, and they use car batteries, and they use defecation, and they use, things like on a really big satanic ritual, there'd be like 3 or 4 kids there in my cell of, MK Ultra cell. And they would have us in the holding area before they began the ritual. And there would be, 4 children and a dog. And we'd all be petting the dog, knowing that we're about to get raped and tortured. and all this crap was going to happen to us. And so we were all kind of like really getting into the fact that the dog's consciousness was like just happy to be around 4 kids that were petting it. And it was all happy and loving and like digging on the scene. And, you know, after that night of abuse, they would axe murder the dog in front of us and say to us, "This is what we'll do to you if you talk." And, you know, when you're, 4 or 5 years old, you have to go through that, time after time after time. It really takes your subconscious and just, wrecks it. And with this programming and I'm talking about the satanic programming, which is, hard trauma based, as opposed to the soft programming, which you get from your culture, which is satanic. I mean, people are now starting to take a step back and say, why are we spending 80% of our budget on war? Why does America have 700 bases all over the world? I mean, what are we doing? And, when 70% of the people in America say, I don't want to go into this war, and the government does it anyway. I mean, you're just a slave. You're just a taxed minion. And, there's so much that I'm working on with my radio shows, but the center path is mostly geared to teaching consciousness and teaching the programmable nature of human beings. You can do EFT and you can mitigate any trauma or any programming that has been put in your subconscious. And that's what has made me the man I am today, was instead of being involved in the moon matrix, I was able to use EFT, which is a subconscious reprogramming, repatterning modality. And you tap on certain pressure points and you do some phraseology in your mind, thinking on the pattern of thought or emotion that you have locked into you. And it'll change the pattern. You can take bad things out and you can put good things in with Psyche, EFT, tap and breathe. There's quite a few different energy modalities, psychology modalities out there. I use EFT because from my research, it's been known to work on post-traumatic stress disorder the best. And as Dr. Bruce Lipton says, EFT will do stuff that Psyche cannot do. And having the worst problems consciously that I think a human being can have, I can tell you, EFT has taken the patterning that I was under and just thrown it into the trash. And I tell the secondary psychopaths out there, because that's what happens when you go through Monarch or a satanic ritual abuse. You literally become a secondary psychopath because you're not a normal human being anymore. The synaptic pathways in your mind have been warped, and the chemistry that you have is different than most people as far as chemistry. So,
yeah, does anyone else want to ask a question?
Yeah, you also touched on Organite. I know I wasn't really too aware of Organite until I saw a YouTube video that you made where you talked about emotional freedom technique and Organite, and that really put that on my radar. And so I started looking into that myself. Did you want to talk a little bit about how Organite's helped you and what you do with Organite?
Well, I'm really glad you asked me about Organite because with what I'm teaching and trying to share out there, Organite to me, from my research, is probably one of the things that we can do that's least expensive and most effective in changing the energy of the planet. We are epigenetic creatures, and our personal energy affects not only ourselves, but the entire human race. And Organite does two things for a person. It protects you from EMF pollution, which is the microwave pollution that we're living with right now. And it also it strengthens the etheric field around your body. So the negative spirituality that is bombarding you as a epigenetic creature from these satanic rituals and such, you're protected a little bit. But the EMF pollution is like a sawtooth wave against your cell walls. And so if you don't have orgonite in your house or on your person, you're definitely getting interference to your biology. And there's two doctors. In fact, I have to put this up on my web. I haven't done it yet. My website, I'm still building it, guys. And, I've got a few good pages. But let's talk briefly about what I've done with the orgonite and what it means to me. Orgonite was discovered by Dr. Wilhelm Reich back in the 50s. And what Dr. Wilhelm Reich found out was the entire planet is covered with and permeated with a life force energy, which he called orgone energy, and from where we get orgasm from, believe it or not. And this is, the consciousness. This is the goddess, and it makes up everything. It is everything. But this orgone energy can be heightened, and it can be channeled with these orgonite devices. So back in the first Free Your Mind conference, I did a talk on the orgonite devices I was making: pendants, the pyramids, the power wands, etc., with Friedman Fly, and he put it up on the web, and it's been posted and reposted, but it's basically been seen by 250,000 people. There were 100,000 views before it got reposted, and now I think it's around 150,000. So I have run into people and had people contact me on Facebook and on the web that basically they started orgonite making when they saw that presentation. They did some investigation on the web. There's plenty of YouTube orgonite YouTubes out there. And, you're protecting your cell walls against the EMF pollution. You're strengthening your own personal etheric field. I have a great Carillion photography, two of them, of Kate B. Moon, a woman who was a shaman in central Pennsylvania and a good friend of mine and the Free Your Mind conference. And she took one Carillion photography without any orgonite on her person. Then she took one holding a pendant in her hand. And the etheric field totally changed. In the first photograph, it had some pinks, some yellows, a little bit of orange, and it was blotchy, so to speak. And then it went in the second Carillion photography to a consistent, pure light gold. And that is a symbol, according to the spiritual people I know and talk to about this, is being under divine protection and divine inspiration and connection. And that's exactly where her mindset is, to be a shaman and to be going with the natural flow of goddess energy and orgone energy. And so right there in those two Carillion photographs, it shows what it has, the effect in the etheric field around your body. And so, I'm working on my website. There is a header for orgonite that I have yet to fill the page up yet. That's going to be the next project I do on my website. But my website is, and I should really talk about this for the next 15 minutes. In addition to the two radio programs that I'm doing, Matrix Warriors and The Center Path, which are both on Veterans Truth Network. I also have a website called thecenterpath.weebly.com. And thecenterpath.weebly.com is my website where I'm posting YouTubes, I'm posting and organizing the information so that people can go there and instead of having to fish around for themselves, finding the correct YouTubes to change their consciousness or learn about natural law or learn about the New World Order and what the occult's doing, I'm categorizing everything and I'm making it easy for people to change their consciousness. I'm making it easy for people to learn about their physiology and their way that they're programmed in the first 6 years of life, and that if they want a good life, they need to repudiate the enculturalization of the first 6 years of life, do EFT or some other subconscious repatterning, and get their life back. Because your subconscious is 400 bits of information, not 400, 40 million bits of information to the field every second. And your conscious mind is 4 million bits of information transferred to the field back and forth every second. So it's 1,000,000 to 1 power differential between the subconscious, which you receive from your culture, which is not something you built, to your conscious mind, which is something you built by yourself in the things that you're interested in. But of course, that conscious mind, of course, is also shaped by the subconscious. Subconscious gives you your beliefs, your likes and dislikes. And when you realize that your subconscious runs 95% of your life, and your life isn't cracked up to be what you want it to be emotionally, financially, spiritually, then you realize you have to go in there and take the trash out. And when someone goes through ritual trauma like I have, that's a mountain of trash. And it's not only a mountain, it's also burnt into your consciousness with a cattle prod. So I can testify that EFT will take away the patterning that I had. Because in growing up in a Illuminati family, what they do, they'll do the same or similar ritual on every moon cycle. So you'll have a different aspect of your consciousness damaged on the same moon cycle for years in a row. So that after they stop physically abusing you, once you get your third brainwave pattern at 6 or 7 years old, which of course is the alpha brainwave pattern, which is calm consciousness. Once you get that alpha brainwave pattern, you can start differentiating information coming into your mind and decide what you want and what you don't want. But until that time, it's all complete download. So when you start doing EFT, whether you're, trauma-based mind control or soft mind control by enculturalization, you can just sit down, you get a notebook, you sit down, what I want in life, what is going on in my life I don't want. Whether it's emotional, spiritual, financial, bad habits, physically, socially, culturally, you can reprogram yourself. And there's nothing wrong with reprogramming yourself because we are a programmable species. And this is what the oligarchs took away, because the only people who are talking about this, except for the scientists and spiritual people today, the only people in the history of the human race that were talking about this were the last time, of course, were the Gnostics back in the time of Christ. And so that's why the oligarchs had to kill them all, because they were teaching goddess mythology, teaching nature religion, teaching that you're a steward of the garden and that you have to have a respect for women and a respect for one another and be on the center path in life, neither an abuser nor a victim. It's just amazing when you look at talks on my website like Mark Passio's 8-hour presentation of natural law at New Haven, Connecticut. People in this culture that we have don't even know the two primary pillars of consciousness. The masculine aspect of having a right to defend yourself against violence, and the feminine aspect, which is do no harm. It's not even known in this world. So there's so much to learn, but on my website, thecenterpath.webly.com, I did a page called The New Paradigm. So that was all dedicated to the work of Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden. And there are a few talks by Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton that will give you what I would say is 10 years of spiritual and psychological teaching in the space of like 3 years. I mean, we live in an information age right now where you've got people like Bruce Lipton, a PhD doctor, who takes 35 years of understanding of genetics and physics and puts it on a 10-hour DVD set and sells it to you. You can buy it on the web for $30. It's called Wisdom of Your Cells. You can buy a used one for $30. Might cost you like $45 to get it directly from him. And that right there will teach you things that have not been known by the human race for 2,000 years. And 35 years of wisdom from being a top shelf microbiologist and researcher. And this changes your consciousness when you know the truth about yourself. None of this stuff is in being taught in schools. None of this. I mean, schools are still teaching that genes control life, when in fact genes don't control life. Energy controls life. So you're wondering, how can things change on this world? Well, since we are in a consciousness holodeck, I'm sure of that. I was told that growing up in the Illuminati before I rebelled. My mother said the most important thing to the Illuminati is the collective subconscious of the human race. When you take that 40 million bits of information transferred into the field from every human being, each 7 billion human beings, you've got more than enough bits of information to build this reality. So New Paradigm is a great page to learn about EFT. I have like 12 EFT videos. I have Bruce Lipton talking about subconscious repatterning. I have Bruce Lipton talking about, he's got a video out, which I love right now, which is called The Most Important Message You'll Ever Hear. And this hour-and-a-half talk that he did is just astounding in my estimation. It's just simply astounding. And I'm trying to get people to look at The Divine Matrix by Greg Braden, and Bruce Lipton delivers the most important message you'll ever hear. But it's on my consciousness page. I did on my consciousness page, I did 27 hours of consciousness growth videos. So if you give me 2 hours a night and you go through these, dozen or so videos that are free on YouTube, and you start to get into EFT, I can guarantee that you're not going to be the same person in 2 weeks. I mean, there's not many people walking around this planet that can say, give me 27 hours and I'll change your consciousness, guaranteed, for the better. Okay?
Yeah, and doing it all for free, too.
Yeah, well, actually, I do have a donate page, Zach, and I calculated last month how much I'm making, and I'm making $1.05 an hour doing this.
Definitely not high enough. People do need to understand that, like, the information that's not being backed up by big, huge corporations is the information that needs to be backed up by people like us, because that's the important information.
I mean, on my website the other day, I got 800 hits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, the vast majority of people, I mean, I got $300 in the space of like a month, and since I'm working about 60 hours a week at this, I'm just trying to show.
Exactly. I'm just trying to show people that, if we start coming together and just start giving a little bit to just truth speakers and truth networks like Veterans Truth Network, we really can help you guys out.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Veterans Truth Network, and they're having trouble getting people to pay them $3 a month to keep their servers running. It's ridiculous. I mean, come on. I mean, you don't want to give me $1, Stu Webb $1, and Professor James Fetzer $1. I mean, you look at the people on the network, and it's a young network. It's only 3 months old, and there's a lot of work being done, and they're setting stuff up. They're going to have TV soon, and they're investing. I mean, lots of money, and I'm just shaking my head. At the fact that there's so many people in the consciousness movement that they'll pay $120 a month for cable TV, but they won't pay a nickel for truth. So it's kind of scary. But it's okay. I've got my website. People are starting to listen to me. I have that appeal. That's what the $300 that I've received in the last month. I have an appeal right now. I'm trying to raise $600 to do a cheap knockdown video studios, because I should be filming myself and doing PowerPoint presentations like Mark Passio, because I have a really good way of talking about this stuff that is non-threatening.
Yeah, I think you can definitely reach a large audience. It's like putting a little milk in the meat. Not everybody's ready to consume the hardcore information in a confrontational way.
And I really don't think that's not the way to go to wake somebody up. You have to talk about health issues first. I mean, the first thing you talk about is fluoride. The first thing you talk about is aspartame. The first thing you talk about is GMO food. You give them information that is basically based on just simple power, money, corporate corruption. You don't go beating them over the head about the 34 million pedophiles that are running around America, because they can't handle it. Their subconscious is programmed by the state, programmed by the religions. I mean, look at your chess game, okay? Most people know what a chess set looks like, right? Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Next to the Illuminati king and queen, what do we have on the chess set, gentlemen?
The knights and bishops.
We have the bishops on both sides. Not the knights. It's the bishops. Because throughout history, it's the bishops that have been the helpers and the advisors of the king and queen. Okay? Just saying.
Yeah.
They're telling you right in your face what's going on. Okay? Because controlling the mind and the heart, is how you control this paradigm.
Absolutely. And that's what they do with fear in the media. They get you in that reactionary mode, and then you just accept, problem, reaction, solution.
No, absolutely. But more people have woken up since the collapse of the economy in 2007 and 2008, as to the political corruption and the financial corruption. And then we have 300,000 guns being bought every year in America. And it doesn't matter if, they keep teaching people in America to have an anti-gun culture. There are 70 million minimum patriots that want the Constitution to be obeyed, that are arming the living daylights out of themselves. and they've been doing it for years now. And 300 million guns each year since 2007. I mean, that's a lot of weaponry.
I can make a personal attest. I just went to a gun show yesterday, and it was the second day of a 2-day gun show, and a lot of the bulk bullets were sold out. They were almost sold out of the lower priced ARs, and there was just a lot of people running. It was an interesting dynamic because you've got some statists that just love the government that are in there, and then you've also got people that are prepping for in case the government takes this war against us more overtly. And it was an interesting crowd of people, but one thing they all were big on was gun rights. So I think they're going to have a real tough time taking guns away from the hands of the American people.
And that's what's stopping them from having lockdown. They cannot do a Soviet Union, Nazi Germany lockdown here because the population is armed. It's the only thing keeping us even remotely free. And I wish more people understood that. I don't want to see an open, bloody war. I mean, people in America have an image of war which is from Hollywood. It's total bullshit. I mean, when you have a war, you don't have water coming through your taps, okay? You can't go to the supermarket and get food, okay? It's hell. It's hell. So, these people that are thinking that, they're going to have some kind of insurrection or war and then go down to McDonald's and get a burger, lots of luck with that.
So you brought up the water. I just wanted to plug real quick a very inexpensive way to prepare yourself in case the water does stop running through the tap. On Craigslist, pretty much anywhere in the country, for $15 to $20, you can get 55 gallon barrels that may have just had lemonade in it the day before, and fill it up with tap water, seal it off really, clean it out, fill it up with tap water, seal it off really tight. And you can add a little more chlorine to it, but there's already chlorine in tap water. So I've got my garage looks like a meth lab because of all the barrels I've got in there. And it's just a real cheap way to be prepared with water.
Yeah, absolutely. People should be getting 50-pound sacks of rice and of beans and stuff and getting ready. It may not happen, but if it does and you haven't prepared it all, you're going to be crying.
Yeah, and even just a couple weeks would just destroy people. People aren't even prepared for short-term outages and disruptions.
Well, I'm at the point from what I've been through in this whole thing is that if it does start to look like 1776, I'm going to move out of the cities and, get in touch with some patriots out in the rural areas that I know. And I'm certainly not going to – the cities will be controlled probably by the statists. And the rural areas will be controlled by the freedom fighters, just like it was in the first revolution, So getting back to my website, guys, and before we wrap up here, thecenterpath.weebly.com. I've set up a couple of pages like the consciousness page, 27 hours of things that will teach you what you need to know. And then I have the dark occult page. And these are all under the Learn banner on my website. So the drop-down menu comes on when you hit the Learn page. But the dark occult page is 33 hours of everything you have to know about. The aspartame, the MSG, the GMO, the vaccination, the chemtrails, geoengineering, okay? The mind control through mass media, okay? What happened in Oklahoma City with the bombing, the false flag of 9/11, and what that means for society. I spent a lot of time picking through all the things that I learned for 14 years, roughly. And, I'm giving you the best stuff I got. You know what I mean?
One thing I really respect about your work and presentation style, Jay, is that not only are you showing people the dark aspects of our world, but you're at the same time, you're handing them healing modalities and solutions. And that's just so huge and that's so important. And I just really respect that.
Yeah, and it's not all my stuff. It's like, I don't know, people, do this thing where they got their own little niche of good information. And they don't promote anybody else. They don't talk about anybody else. It's just me. Hey, if we're going to change this, people have to go back to being holistic. We have to have a holistic attitude towards being a human being and get rid of all this nationalism and get rid of all this ethnicity and all this bigotry. We're humans first. We got one planet and we need to take care of it. And I mean, Fukushima and the geoengineering spraying, we may not be here in 5 years. I mean, 90% of the insects in a USDA study of Southern Oregon and Northern California recently, 90% of the insects were gone. The aquatic and terrestrial insects, 90% are gone. And this is a precursor to a total ecological collapse, because without those micro insects and the larger insects, the plants don't eat. They need those mini insects to break down the soil so they can eat readily. And then when you have water, which has nano aluminum in it, there is an amount of nano aluminum that every plant and tree can absorb before it shuts down and dies. And you go out west, where they've been spraying for a couple of years longer than they did in the eastern part of the U.S., and everything's dying out there. Why do you think they have forest fires of 50,000 acres out there? One of the most flammable things in the universe is nano aluminum. You mix nano aluminum and iron oxide together, you got thermite. You can cut through iron with that and steel. So that's why the fires out west are crazy. All over the world, they're having massive forest fires that they've never seen before because of the man-made geoengineering droughts and this aluminum pollution. And it's going to kill everything. Monsanto has patented GMO aluminum-resistant seeds. They're coming out with a whole line of, products where the seeds can grow in a aluminum-polluted soil.
I want to add one thing to that in case anybody's going to do research on this. I dug into that as deep as I could, and officially on Monsanto's website, they say that they do not. But if you do a Google patent search, you can find the patent and you can find a connection between the patent holders and Monsanto affiliations. So they'll do a little dance to make it look like they're not working on it. But trust me, they're working on it.
Now, the people like Jeffrey Smith, the experts in this, they know. I mean, there's nothing like a good shell corporation to hide your ass, right?
Right.
Yeah. So on my Dark Occult, I got 33 hours of Awake and Aware videos, and I just find that knowing the negative has only made me work harder for the positive. So I don't know these people who say I don't want to look at this bad negative stuff. It got me off the couch and got me on internet radio, and put me on the center path to improve my consciousness and really fight these dark occult idiots,
That's what
So right now, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. I was going to say that's what it should do. It should put fire under people's ass and give them some courage to stand up and fight this stuff. But we got a lot of cowards out there that'll hear negative information, curl up in a fetal position and say, I want to go back to sleep. So it does.
I think that ties back well into being a programmable species. I think a lot of people will shy away from that or reject that because of the accountability attached to it. Because if if we're programmed and we have the ability to reprogram ourselves, and we're not doing that, then we're still being a part of the problem. We're continuing to be an agent of continuing the negativity in the world. Whereas our power lies in being a programmed species or a reprogrammable species. But with that power comes accountability and a need for discipline and responsibility. And I think that's why courageous people will absolutely take up that sword and join in the effort to reprogram humanity, whereas the people who don't have the courage to do that will shy away from it because of the accountability attached to it.
It really, that's why learning natural law and finding out that, and also a lot of good spiritual teachers out there are saying, well, you got problems with God. Well, no, you don't. God doesn't have a problem with you. The problem's in you. It's your attitudes. It's your screwed up mentation. But, I know that the good is going to win. I'm just saying that we're in the photonic belt. We're getting energy from the universe, from the center of the galaxy. That's one of the reasons why, as epigenetic creatures, we're waking up. And you have to look at the information of Bruce Lipton. And I would say the best thing you can do to get on the center path, one of the things that I found helped me the most to understand why and how it's good to work on yourself consistently is Dr. Bruce Lipton's Wisdom of Yourselves. And Greg Braden's Divine Matrix, you have to spend 4 hours and watch that film. I know it's a pain in the neck, but if you don't learn, you're just a piece of mush for the state. And you got to ask yourself, is that what you want to be?
Yeah, you pay with your time and attention. What do you spend your time and attention on? You can gain so much from this information if you just spend your time, break it up in chunks, small digestible pieces, and go through it in a linear progression like you've laid out in your site.
That's what I'm doing. I'm working on my website the most right now.
But it's coming together nicely, man.
Well, I'm working on the library right now, which I've got 7 library pages. Consciousness, philosophy, dark occult, health, earth ecology, history, and science. And so I'm just putting all the researchers I know about and, the books I've personally read and I know I want to read, I'm going to put up on the website with a live link right to Amazon or whatever bookseller's got it. And you'll be able to go there and say, okay, I've got the money and the time to buy this book, and bingo, go to my website, do a couple of clicks, and you'll be right there.
I hope people find how valuable this is, because there's that saying that we crawl upon the shoulders of the giants who've come before us. And while you're making a short list here of giants, and a quick access to their shoulders. So you're kind of lining this up for people so that they can spend the minimum amount of time and energy that they have to get the maximum amount of important education. I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just nailed who I am and what I'm doing on this planet. I realize that we're in a bad way, but if we come together, we're going to win this thing. Absolutely. The universe is not going to let the Illuminati do what they want to do. I know that spiritually. And Greg Braden has said the universe is not going to let the planet be destroyed. So, this Anthropos may lose, and we may go into our consciousness may go into a spiritual hiatus for millions of years while the planet recovers. But, eventually we will win this thing, because the goddess said to the demiurge, the chief archon, that the Anthropos, which is our species, will eventually defeat the archonic forces, which is, good will defeat the devil. And there's plenty of, I would say, evidence that, especially if you listen to John Lash, talking about this is probably at least the 6th version of the Anthropos. And we've had dozens of civilizations that worldwide that have risen and fallen. Especially, I mean, just look at the worldwide pyramid civilization, you know?
Right.
I mean, that stuff didn't happen, 5,000 years ago. I mean, there was a cataclysm in 9600 BC, which is known in the West as Noah's Flood. Okay? And what that was a supernova fragment going between the Earth and the Moon and causing a gravitational field so strong that all the water rose up to the northern hemisphere, almost like the top of a soft ice cream cone. And then, as the supernova fragment got further away from the Earth and the Moon, it released the water that it had gathered all the way, congealed all together. And it was a 150-foot wall of water. And we lost 52 genera of animals just in Northern America. And we've been in shock. The human race has been in shock since then. And it destroyed the civilization that was there in the world. And I would suspect that most of the human race died in that. I mean...
And with that knowledge being occulted from the human race, it makes it pretty easy to manipulate history and or even shroud some of that information in weird religious metaphors or seemingly metaphors to kind of, make the information inauthentic in people's minds.
Well, one of the things people are now we're getting information that has not been around since pre-10,000 BC. I mean, we're being told that our genetic memory does actually affect our consciousness. There's a lot of information that, I've got to just get my studio together, guys, and start doing my Mark Passio type presentations. But it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. I just want to say in closing that my website has got a cannabis section that everyone should see. I have like 6 websites on there, and talking about medical cannabis, and I've got 4 websites talking about industrial hemp. If people only knew that in 1937, industrial hemp and cannabis were made illegal as part of a criminal conspiracy, and that these 2 products are the key to our freedom, in so many ways. So I've got 6 really good YouTube documentaries on cannabis, and I've got, about 12 medical cannabis testimonials, maybe a little more, 16 or so. And I'm asking people to get aware of this, There's a link to the cannabis movie Drug Law that just came out, and for $4.20 you can download the movie. And I'm working it as hard as I can.
Yeah, it's coming together nicely. A lot of good ways to expand your consciousness, heal yourself, and learn about the true occulted history of this world. It's looking really nice. And
I'm doing it simply, my I picked this website one. It's free. I don't have money for hosting and anything. And I've made it like the USA Today of information. It's as simple and easy to visually. It's like, look at the picture, click it. Okay, we're there, Mm-hmm. Make it as simple as possible, That's all I'm trying to do.
Well, I'm personally using that. Well, I'm using your site for a lot of resources and go-to right now. It's branching me off in a bunch of amazing things. I was invited to give a speech on cannabis for the Libertarian Party of my county at the fire department here in a couple of weeks. And your resource here has been amazing for my data collection for that. And I really appreciate it.
Well, that's what it's for. It's this change in consciousness and this change politically and industrially, especially. There's going to be a cannabis and hemp hemp revolution in this country real soon, because more and more people are realizing that it was an act of genocide by the government to keep medicinal cannabis from the people. And it was an act of malice aforethought by the people who did the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, Stamp Act, and also malice aforethought by the Nixon administration hiding the truth about what they found out in their studies.
Beyond that, the whole effort to imprison nonviolent criminals and put people in cages for having plants and growing plants.
Oh, absolutely. This is Dark Occult 101 here. Now, this is what they do. They take the truth and they turn it upside down. But it's over for them. I'm telling you, it's over for them.
It's definitely the target-rich environment for ways to wake up. You know, they're deceiving us and poisoning us on so many different angles that if somebody wakes up with health, if somebody wakes up with chemtrails, fluoride, cannabis, you know, there's a lot of ways for people to wake up right now.
Well, that's true. I'm just saying that use EFT and change the mentation in your mind. I mean, that's going to be the next big thing I'm going to do on my website is actually do a list of things I'm going to ask people to tap on to change their subconscious, broadcast.
Real quick, I don't think anybody has spoken on what EFT stands for. It stands for Emotional Freedom Tapping or Techniques.
It's Emotional Freedom Technique.
And it's a tapping technique, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a energy psychology. On my new paradigm page, underneath the home section on my website, I have Jay's 7 pages. And I have a page called New Paradigm. And there's a lot of drop-down menus and stuff on my website, so you have to scroll over the 6 main headers. But I have Greg Braden. I have Bruce Lipton, about 9 videos. And then I have a large amount of Gary Craig, which is all EFT. And Gary Craig, on his website, I have a link at the bottom of that page. You can go right to it, and it's the gold medal, gold seal of EFT tutorials, and it's all for free. Because Gary Craig just wants people to, get their life together. Now, he's got some issues personally that, he likes the Course in Miracles and stuff, and I don't. But,
Yeah, I just want to jump in. It's all about, everyone's got a piece of truth almost, and you just got to create a tapestry for your own self so you can find the truth and learn about all these different modalities of consciousness. We shouldn't throw anyone under the bus because we don't agree with everything they say. If you do that, you won't listen to anything.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, you have to be – it's a mark of an intelligent person to be able to hold a thought in their mind and decide for themselves whether they're going to follow it or not,
Absolutely.
That's coming back to that whole notion of being accountable and responsible for all your thoughts, emotions, and actions, and taking up the effort to reprogram yourself enough, and you got to entertain new ideas that may contradict your old belief patterns.
Yeah, I there's so much that I've learned in the last 14 years since waking up that I'm going to be working on this website heavy, which is what I'm doing now, probably for the next month or two, just to get the basic bare bones in there. And then, go from there. But I don't know anybody else in the world right now that's trying to pull everything together and teach people holistically what they need to know. I just don't know anybody. Everybody out there is banging their own drum. I mean, what do you think, guys?
I see a lot of that. I see maybe somebody will be focused just on geoengineering, say, and it's almost like there'll be a blinder on and they won't realize how holistically connected this all is. My response to people who are just hammering the geoengineering, like, we just have to stop that, we have to stop that. It's like, yeah, we do, but that's one of the last things that's going to stop. That's something that we have to completely tear down, this whole model of dark occult web that's controlling us, to stop that. That's not going to stop with petitions. That's not going to stop with protests. That's a way to wake people up to the fact that they have this web of control over us, but we really have to get holistic with our solutions. And I do see people with those blinders on.
And we absolutely have to promote each other's work as well. Jay, you touched on it earlier. It really does raise an eyebrow when a researcher or a quote-unquote truth speaker is not putting forward other people's research that is very effective in healing and waking people up. So people who aren't doing that, either, they might have some mini-me Satanism thing going on, or they just are trying to make money, and which I guess would fall in line with the mini-me Satanism. But ultimately, if people aren't doing that, they need to start doing that. And if the researchers that they're looking into aren't doing that, they need to maybe do a little bit more research into what these people are about.
And I just want to give a quick shout out to the Free Your Mind podcast. I think those guys have a really good way of getting as many perspectives as they can. There's no favoritism. It's just, here's as many presenters and speakers of quality information out there, and look at it yourself and learn yourself through that.
Absolutely. Well, with that in mind, we've had a little chat here, and, I'm going to go back and continue to work on my website. I'm working on the library right now. Just trying to fill about, I would say 50, 60 books should be good. I've got about 30 in there right now. So, just trying to get it together, boys. All right, I'm going to take off.
Well, you're an inspiration and to all of us, and we really appreciate having you here and talking with us. So thank you very much, Jay.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
Thanks for listening to the rambling conversation of me. It's a stream of consciousness. It just meanders all over the place. Yeah.
Well, it comes together nicely, man. It was great having you on here.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll do it again, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Take it easy, brother.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening, guys. Take care.
No master, no slave.